Are you ready to become an escape-reneur? Well, you are in the right place. Welcome to the Bye Bye 9 to 5 podcast, designed by brilliant women, especially for brilliant women who want to create the life of their dreams by escaping the 9 to 5.
Welcome to Bye Bye 9 to 5, where we are impacting the world with the way women transform themselves and their lifestyles. Um, I have a special guest with us today, Miss Amie Pederson, and Amie is going to share with us a little bit about what she does. So, first of all, let me introduce Amie. Amie, great to have you here.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes. And so I have to read this bio. It is such a good bio. I'm sorry, but I have to read this. Um, she is a wife and mom of two little boys, a stepmom, and an urban farmer. You know, I'm going to ask about that. Biz mentor and assert confidence coach who helps women up their confidence, clarity in business so they can create a confident and successful life. She hosts the she's the host and creator of Moms Making Money show, and I can't wait to hear all about that. And the founder of Busy Fit Mom LLC. Having come from 13 years of mentoring, ladies, don't miss this. 13 years of mentoring other businesses into multi-million dollar corporations. Now she's a work at home mama building her own empire. Welcome, Amy. Great, great, great to have you.
Thank you. The pleasure's all mine.
Wonderful. So I'm going to turn my little computer screen around here a little bit. Okay. So, Amy, can you tell us where are you hailing from today?
I am in San Diego, California. So I always say I'm an urban farmer because when you think of San Diego, you think of the beach and the zoo and all that fun stuff and SeaWorld. You don't think about showing up at somebody's house and petting goats and riding horses.
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. Um, San Diego is so beautiful. I love it there. Oh, yes, so beautiful. So, Amy, give us a little bit of your story. We definitely like to get to know you better.
Okay, so my story I always like to say I have like this squirrel in my head, and so my story is a little bit like that, where it kind of bounces around a little bit. When I first started school, I studied holistic health, specifically nutrition. And the reason that I originally got onto that journey is my mom had been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and nothing that the doctors where she lives in Idaho, nothing they had suggested was helping her out at all. So I had done some research because I'm a total nerd and I like to research. And I kept coming back to all these things like nutrition, nutrition, nutrition. And I fell in love with it. And since then, it's been a passion of mine. So I was working while going to college, and I ended up working for a construction company who built power lines. So it was in power line construction. And I never took when I finally finished my nutrition stuff, I never did anything with it because I'd been moving up in this other job and I really liked it. So I kind of shifted gears a little bit, and by the time I actually graduated with my bachelor's degree, it was in business management and business communications. And then prior to doing that, I got a certificate as a certified project manager from San Diego State. So I was doing all these other things. And one of the things that I'd been tasked with was helping to mentor other companies. And it was an initiative put into place by the Public Utilities Commission that construction companies working on utilities and municipalities, they were required to reach out and call diverse businesses. And that included women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, service-disabled businesses. And so there were a few that were just getting started. So it was my job as part of that general order from the PUC to help them grow and mentor them in their growth. And so for some of these companies, that meant everything from day one of going to the lawyer's office and helping them start their corporation all the way up into managing, multi-million-dollar projects, sometimes multiple companies at once. And it was a ride. It was so much fun. It was really exciting. Never a dull moment. I was, traveling here, traveling there. I was everywhere, from, Nevada to California and all over. And it was awesome, until I decided that we were going to have a family.
Uh-huh.
And, and my husband is in the power line business as well. And so we decided, okay, well, we're going to have a family, so I'm going to stop traveling. And he decided he was going to stop traveling. And all the bigger jobs were coming to an end. So it just made sense. It was perfect timing. But I'd always had it in my mind, like, I'm going to go back to work. Like, I've worked so hard to get here. I've worked so hard to get to this income level. I've worked so hard to get to this title, if you will. Like,
Uh-huh.
it's funny, I just did a video the other day about how sometimes what we do for a living becomes our identity. So when
Oh.
you're trying to make a shift, that is so hard to do. And the only thing I can think of that makes it relevant to people is, you always hear, like, once a Marine, always a Marine. And
Yeah.
and while I have, like, this was totally different than being in the armed service, like, that's the only way I could put words. Like, I'd become like an executive and somebody that people, like, needed and wanted to have around, and like the idea of, like, I can't quit. Look how far I've come. Like, I started as, like, an office manager, and now look at what I've done for myself. And that was something that I really wanted to do, and I had accomplished it. So the idea of just walking away from that and walking away from that income, it was like, no, no, no. But then once the baby came, it was like the day I went back, I was like, oh, the mom guilt. It was like,
Yes.
it was
Yes.
real. Every single day until the day it was my last day. And I'd had a long-term relationship and an excellent career. Like, I couldn't say a single bad thing about my employer, the people that I worked with. Like, I still go have lunch with them and stuff because they became practically like my family. And in a long period of time, I mean, I've known them long as my husband. So it's kind of like, it was a hard decision to make. It took a year to make the decision, and then I gave a year's notice.
Oh, wow. That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, it was hard for me to walk away from that.
Wow. That's an amazing story. Here again, uh, just for my audience to realize, here again, we have someone who loved her job. And so it wasn't about not liking your job. It was simply about wanting something better for your life, for your family, for your children. And that is so important because underneath it all, Amy, you're still a mother, you're still a wife, you still have those responsibilities. And so why shouldn't you take all the creative genius that you already have? Because of course you have it. You made all these companies multi-million dollar companies. Um, why shouldn't you take that and bring it in-house to better your lifestyle for you and your children and your family?
Right.
So kudos to you. I know it's a hard decision sometimes. Um, so would you say, because I know I heard you say a couple things about having kind of stumbled in a little bit to this passion on nutrition. And then, because yours is such a unique situation. So would you say that's kind of what happened? You kind of stumbled into that because of, yeah. And
Yeah,
that's what happens sometimes with passion, isn't it?
yeah.
Um,
Still a passion of mine. I mean, I still do some, some people, I still help them with their health and nutrition stuff. And my original plan was that I was going to do online health coaching, and that just shifted because I was so drawn back to the business stuff. So it's still a big part of my life. People still think I drink weird things because I drink macadamia nut milk or something weird. They
mhm.
think I'm crazy, and in a
Good
good
crazy.
way. But so yeah, it's part of my life. It's part of, like, I try to lead with, when I got a cold the other day. Was like, okay, I'm doing all my, some people call it my witchy stuff. Like I'm diffusing the essential oils and all
Yes.
that stuff, drinking tea, which, it works for me. It totally works for me.
Very good. And I relate to that because I do quite a bit of nutrition stuff too, Amy, and I hear people say, why aren't you a health coach or something? That is not my passion. I just love nutrition. I just want to live I have, of course, I won't tell my story here, but because we are interviewing you, the things that leads me to nutrition. Now, the other interesting thing you said, Amy, is you talked about um, being in this role at work and not being able to separate yourself from that role. Um, and I want to touch on that a little bit because I think there's some women out there who may very well relate to that. You know, being in that corporate space and being so good at what you do. Tell me, uh, and I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, that you really recognize that as a passion to begin with. You just kind of recognize it as this is just what I do. This is just who I am. Tell me a little bit more about that and how that kind of translated into to your coaching right now.
Yeah. So, um, oh, my speakers are acting a little wacky. The whole idea of being a business coach didn't come to me like right off the cuff. It came to me, I was taking a break, maternity leave. I pretty much took all of last year off just to spend time,
Nice.
reacclimating to have a new baby in the house and a preschool age child and everything else. And, leaving behind that former identity of being, in an executive type of position. And
Mm-hmm.
now, walking away from a paycheck, because that's something that's hard to do too, I think. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that was something I'd always said is I always want to be able to provide for myself. I always want to be able to take care of myself. I never want to be dependent on my spouse or whatever. So that
Right.
was really hard for like my ego. Um, but even while I was off, I still had people who I knew personally who were like, hey, I'm going to start this business. What's the next step? What's the first step? Who do I call for this? What do I do for that? And I had
Mm-hmm.
numerous people. And then it was like, oh, if I'm doing just health coaching, I can only help people in the health, industry. And I had paired up with an
That's
MLM.
right.
So it was like I could only help people grow a business if they wanted to pair up with that MLM, if they wanted to go down this health journey. And I also realized that starting a business and then changing your entire lifestyle, they're two completely different things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I decided that it made more sense for me to use, my business degrees and my business experience and help people in every aspect of business, whether
There you
it's
go.
a consulting company that's like brick and mortar or an online company. Or one woman came to me and she wants to start a group home because she takes care of developmentally disabled
Nice.
kids and teens, and she wants to start a group home for that. So we talked about all the different things of nonprofit versus profit and, just where to even start. Because she's like, I don't even know the difference between an LLC and a corporation. So we kind of went through that a
Yes.
little bit. And while I'm not a tax person, I said, I know there's different tax ramifications for doing this versus this.
Right.
I told her what I did know, and then I referred her to a CPA. But
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I just had like it was like a light bulb moment. I was speaking with one of my mentors, and it was just like, bam! Like I want to help people with whatever their vision is. Like it's the business stuff, and my mentor was like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Instead of trying to like force this other business, because at the time I wasn't feeling like working out. Like I finally this year got like last month got back into the groove of working out again. I wasn't feeling it. So I felt like I was forcing my health business, right? And
Right.
I just made the shift. I just, decided, and I use a saying that she often says is deciding is freedom. What,
Mm.
especially for women. Once you
Mm-hmm.
decide that you want something and you're just going to go for it, watch out, world.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I had to jot that one down, Amy. That's a nugget, ladies. Deciding is freedom. It is. Oh my gosh, that's good. Another nugget out of what you just said there, and I like to point these out for the women that are listening because I want them to get the most out of this.
Mhm.
Um, is something you mentioned about a paycheck. Having that paycheck and how, you know, it comes to you every week or every 2 weeks or whatever, and just wrapping your head around that. And you said it was hard for your ego.
Yeah.
And ladies, we have egos too. I mean, it's not reserved for just guys. Um, especially when you are a high achiever, and Amie, apparently, you are definitely that. And so, um, we have egos too. So we have to just making that transition. That's why moving from the 9 to 5 to what you're doing currently as a business coach is definitely a lot of mindset stuff goes around that. That's why we're doing these purpose and passion series first, so that we can hear some of that mindset stuff that we work through when we're getting ready to start that business, right?
Yep.
Awesome. Um, so now this is a perfect question for you. Tell me about, as a mom, tell me about a typical day, like of juggling family and kids and life and the whole shebang while trying to work on your business.
One of the most valuable things that I learned from one of my mentors, because before it was like I said, I had that squirrel. It was like like bouncing a ping pong ball around in my brain, and that's what I felt like my life looked like, right? So the best advice she ever gave me is set boundaries. Set
Mm,
boundaries around your schedule, set boundaries
mhm,
around your energy,
mhm,
set boundaries. So right now I have certain days that I do certain types of calls.
mhm.
Um, my husband, his schedule is a little bit wacky, so I don't do any work on Sundays, which I don't think that that's overly uncommon. I do take up to 2 calls on Saturday mornings because he typically works on Saturdays. So,
Uh-huh.
you know, so for us, like Sunday, Monday might be a better weekend for us as opposed to, Saturday, Sunday, which that's kind of neat too because I get to decide when my weekend is. And it's like,
Yeah.
don't dread Monday anymore. I'm like, oh, it's Monday, cool, whatever. Like, or I'm like, what day is it?
Right. Right.
But I'm excited to get up in the morning and like if I have, you always have the best ideas like in your sleep or in the shower or in the car. Like,
Oh,
I'm
yes.
excited to share those ideas. I'm not
Yes.
worried about the girls in my community, like my tribe of women. I'm not worried about them telling me like, Amie, this is not a good idea. Like if it's not a good idea, they don't have to implement it. Whereas like if you take a bad idea to your boss and he's like, nope, it's a little bit
Yeah.
different in that, and you're not afraid to pitch your idea either because you're like,
Right.
yes, 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 I know this will work, and then they're excited about it too, and then it works, and then everything's excellent, right? But setting the boundaries, that's the hardest thing at first because you're like, okay, I want to run this business, I want to get it off the ground, so these are all the things I have to do. I have to start a webinar, I have to start a Facebook page, I have to start a website, I have to start this, I have to do this, I have to do that, and then your list is like this long, and then you're like, oh my gosh, and everything is so overwhelming that you're like, I can't do any of this. And then that's when this comes in, and somebody
Yes.
might tell you like, I can't believe you left that. Then you're afraid like, oh my, did I make the right decision? Because look, this other person thinks this. Like, what are other people going to think? Are they going to think this bit? And who am I to have this online business? Because some of my clients have a traditional like brick and mortar type business. Um,
Right.
they don't. I've noticed that the people who have a brick and mortar type of business suffer a little bit less from that fear of what other people think um, than those of us who have an online business, which it's kind of funny to me. But I think some people who are old school, it's like they're in the state of hustle, hustle, hustle. You have to work hard, and I get that. I get that. My family has always been, blue collar, hard workers. My
Mhm.
grandfather taught himself to read as an adult so he could go to trade school to become an electrician.
Nice.
So, I mean, that that was kind of always instilled into me, that very masculine hard work ethic. And I don't regret that. I'm very happy for that. So for me, it was like letting things flow and, really learning how to get into that mindset of being in alignment with something and not just being like, this is what I'm going to sell or this is what I'm going to teach because I know you need it. Instead, it's like, this is what I'm going to sell and this is what I'm going to teach
Right.
because I want to. Because yes, I know that you need
Yes.
it, but because it feels good to me today. So having boundaries, getting in touch with what you want, how you want to deliver it, and
Mm-hmm.
getting past that scary part of it, that's the hardest part up front. But the best advice I ever had was setting boundaries.
Awesome. And that sounds right on target, Amy. Um, a couple nuggets out of what you just said there. You talked about that self-doubt. You know, that self-speak we give ourselves in our mind when someone interjects, are you sure you should have quit that job? You know, and it's like, oh. So you definitely have to be aware that it's coming, and you have to be ready to handle it, because the greatest the greatest thing I realized about fear, Amy, and I'm sure you can relate to this, is that it never really goes away. You just have to figure out how to handle it when it comes,
Right.
because it's going to come.
And it comes in different areas. It comes when you're least expecting it.
Hmm.
And even just the other day, somebody who meant well said something to me, and it really like rattled my cage. I was like, man, I got myself into kind of like a funk about it for the evening. And I spoke to one of my mentors about it, and she's like, well, is it true? And I was like, well, no, it's not true. And she goes, well, is it enough of a concern to not continue with your business? And I was like, hell no, absolutely not. And she's like, okay, then let's get back to work.
There you go. A great mentor. Great, great. Yeah, yeah. Now, would you go back to the job?
You know, I always thought about that, and then it's really funny because my former boss, he just went back to that company because he previously retired, and
Uh-huh.
somebody sent me a message on Facebook, and they're like, "Oh, I heard such and such is coming back. Does that mean you're coming back too?" And I was like, I'm not planning on it. So, and then it got the wheels turning. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I thought about like, what if they did call me? What if they did ask me to come back? The person who's at that company who took my place, she's incredible.
Hmm.
And I know that she does a few different things than what I did, but I actually got to thinking about it, and no, I wouldn't go back to work for that particular company. Nothing against my former boss because he was excellent, but I like him of time. Last month I was at Disneyland with my kids on a weekday.
Yes.
My business was still running. Like,
Yes.
I still had people setting appointments, kind of like on autopilot, and
Yes.
um, and even though it was never really an issue, like getting a day off, like if my kid was sick or whatever, I still had to ask for permission. Like
There you go.
I still had to worry about like, what if he gets mad? What if he says no? What if I've had too many days off because my kid is sick or whatever? So it's like, I've got the sniffles today, and I talk about it. I'm kind of coming off of a cold, because I have a preschooler, so we get all
Oh
kinds
yeah.
of things and stuff over here. But I talk about moms go to work sick because they use their sick days when their kids are sick.
Absolutely. Yes.
I mean,
Yes, you have to save your sick days for your kids, not for you.
yeah. So you go to work sick.
Yeah. Very, that's very, very true. When I worked in corporate, I worked with a lady,
Hmm.
and she was from India, and her father was dying. And we were in the middle of a major software development project. And she went to our boss, to our manager, and said, she needed to take a month off because going to India and having to come back was such a long trip, and her father was dying. They did not expect him to live more than a week. The manager said, no, you're a critical part of our project, you're in the middle of it. But kudos to her, she went anyway and quit her job.
Good.
Because she felt like she only had one father and she could find another job. And kudos to her for being that brave and bold and stepping out and doing that. But that's just, and we had a great manager. But that is just the reality of it when you work for a corporate environment or a business. They have to put their priorities first. So you're right. I don't care how good your manager is, but you still have those thoughts running around your head. What if they decide to say no? Or what if they get mad? So yeah, that's amazing. Good, 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 good. Now, tell me, um, have you made some mistakes along the way?
Yep.
I bet.
I
Um,
I've probably made plenty.
has any of those mistakes ever made you want to give up?
um, no. And maybe that's different for some people because um I have this like I have a mindset that like if I put my mind to it, like I know I can do it. I don't know how long it's going to take me, but I know I can do it. And I once had a phone call with I don't even know how I got this phone call, right? Because it was a free phone call with Amanda Francis. So she's like, she's earning 6 figures a week right now, right? And so I got this phone call with her, and I think it was in like December. And so I'm talking to her about, like where I came from and what I did and what my income level was and how I'd set that goal to, once my goal was to have a 6-figure income and be in a 6-figure career bracket, right? And I did that. And she's like, so what's your problem? Like, she just like laid it out there. And I totally appreciate how candid she was. She's like, so what's your problem? You've already done it before. Why can't you do it again?
Absolutely. That's my motto. If you've
And
done
so
it once, you can do it again.
yep. And so that's just kind of stuck with me. And so I'm, on my way, and granted, there's times
Awesome.
where you're like, maybe I'm charging a little too much for this. And then you're like, totally didn't charge enough for that. And, so there's a lot of learning that goes into it and what you're comfortable with and what you can find. And because at first you're like, well, I don't have, any clients, because when you're first starting out, you've never had any clients
No.
before.
Right. Right.
And you're like, why would somebody pay me $500? Why would somebody pay me
Yeah.
$2,000? But they will, if what you're doing is something that you're doing with integrity, that you
Uh-huh.
know how to do. Like, obviously, like, so I co-own currently a 9-year-old electrical business. So it's my contractor's license, and that's why I kind of stayed with it. I do have a business partner who's a minority owner in the business, and he does all the field work stuff. But so it's like, not only did I mentor other businesses, and granted, there was a team of people, like, we had a CFO who was fundamental in that too. I'm not a CFO, I'm not an accountant. I have a good understanding of accounting and stuff like that, but I'm not an accountant.
Right.
So, I mean, I didn't do it single-handedly. I can't take full credit for mentoring those companies, but that was my job. That was my title. I was a business mentor. And, but I also own, like I said, I own a business, and it's been in full function operation. It's just a small little business, 2 employees, no big deal, but it's a business, and I've been running it for 9 years. So one thing that I know somebody else had said is like, I wouldn't hire somebody who's never had a business to be my business coach.
Okay. Yeah.
So that I can understand and respect. However, I don't feel like you have to be a licensed or certified expert to help somebody else. So say like in health and fitness, maybe you have 100 pounds to lose, but you've already lost 30 pounds. You're already 30 pounds ahead of the person who still needs to lose 100 pounds. And you can
That's right.
tell what you did and how you did it because you've already created the I'll have what she's having factor.
Yeah.
And that's something that you can help people with. So I feel like with like MLMs especially, which I love, I fully support MLMs.
Yes. Me too.
And I fully don't support the people who hate people who do MLMs and have bad things
Yes.
to say about them. So, so that gives people, women especially have had the opportunity to get on board with that, share their own personal journeys, and earn an income from that, from
Yes.
home or a side income, a second job, whatever, while being able to be more present with their children. And I love that.
Yes.
I feel like we're on the upswing of something big, like for society. You know what I mean?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I totally agree. I mean, in what you said there, this is the nugget, ladies. You know more than you think you know. You
Hmm.
are more of an expert at what you already know than what you think. For instance, her example, you know how to lose those 30 pounds. So you have some value, you have something to share. And I think a lot of times women will look at themselves and try to evaluate this big thing about what they don't know or what do I have to offer or I'm not an expert in anything. But even at the core of us, Amie, and I'm sure you will agree, even if we felt we had nothing to offer, we are still mamas and we are wives.
Yep.
So we have some expertise in something.
Yep.
Don't ever discount that because if you, I met a lady the other day who she teaches parents how to get their toddlers to eat um, when they're like 2, 3 years old. And I know I have a grandson that's 3, and he only wants to eat crackers and chips. And he never wants to eat regular food, he calls it. He says, I don't like regular food. And so she teaches them how to do that, how to get them to do that. That was something she went through in order to learn that.
Yep.
So that, I mean, even as wives and mothers, we have value to offer. So don't ever discount that.
Yep.
Great nugget there.
And it's one thing too. A lot of people. I always say like I knew that at first I had like so I had mom guilt about going back to work, and then I had like mom guilt about like how come I'm just not content with just being a mom. Like, and I finally decided like
Mm,
I
yes.
want more for life. I want more for my kids than wiping boogers and folding laundry all day. Like I want more for myself than that. And and my son, one of my sons, he goes to preschool. The other one hangs out with me here. And even like right now, my husband's with them. So he gets to have that quality time too. I do have a babysitter, she's been with us for, 4 years now. She comes for
Nice.
4 hours a week, one half day. So I can record the show, the Mom's Making Money show, and it's a little bit quiet. There have been times where she's a human and she had other things that come up. And the little guy, he's in here like talking to, gibberish
Yeah.
on the show, like he's been on the show, like you just roll with it. And
Yes.
and people are like, well, you had your kid on the show. I was like, the show is Mom's Making Money show, so
Yeah.
most of the people who watch my show are moms, or they're eventually planning to become moms, and they don't
Yes.
mind if they do. They don't have to watch. Simple as that.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just the reality of it. A lot of people, a lot of women think that there has to be this level of perfection and it has to all fall just right. But like you said, you just roll with it. If your son is on camera, oh well, you just say, "Hey, this is my little guy," and you just introduce him, and that's okay.
Yep.
That's okay. You know. So, Amie, it was wonderful, wonderful having you here. I forgot to mention earlier that Amie does have a free gift for everyone. It's the Ideas to Income gift. It's a 7-step workbook. I'm going to run and grab this too. For growing your business confidently. And I think that this is a valuable gift, especially when you're trying to figure out your passion and purpose and you're starting out and you're trying to get those ideas to convert to income.
Yes.
So this will help you. It'll give you a resource where you can work through a workbook and you'll be able to think through things. Um, we're going to do a segment on journaling, and this is kind of like a little bit of guided journaling,
Yeah,
and that'll be great.
it'll help you get going on some of that as well. And one of the things, if you think about it, is confidence sells. You're not going to go get your hair cut or colored from some lady who's like, yeah, I think I'm able to do that for you. I think.
No,
You're like, hell no, hell no. Like, you're going to go and you're going to see someone else who is confident that they can give you that outcome, or who at least has, the courage to tell you, oh no, that's not going to work for you. So that's what attracts us to people when they get up and they, whatever it is, right? Or even like a brain surgeon. You're not going to go to a brain surgeon or a plastic surgeon, or even better, a plastic surgeon. You're going to go to him or her and be like, so I want this procedure done. And they're like, I've never done that before. You're going to be like, okay, see you later.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So you're right. And I will put the link for that on the bottom of the podcast. You'll see it right there at the bottom. You'll be able to grab that. I have all of Amie's information there. You'll be able to reach out to me, reach out to her and just say hi.
Yeah.
Tune into her show. We'll put information about her show, when it's, what time it's done. So you'll be able to chime in for that. And so we're about to wrap up. Amie, I have one last question for you. I want you to give me some strong tips for some of our amazing women that are listening out there, sitting on the fence about starting a business, moving from the 9 to 5. Give me some tips for them where they can get that confidence to move forward.
Okay, my first tip, and this isn't so much a confidence thing, but my first tip is whatever you decide to do it because you love it, not because somebody told you it's going to make you rich. So if you're going to hop into an MLM, make sure you've tried the product and that you actually love it, because that's where that confidence thing comes in. That's where the I'll have what she's having factor comes into play. Then once you get in tune with that, and a little bit more in this workbook too, it'll teach you guys how to lead with your passion. Like if you're passionate about paleo, if you're passionate about being a vegan or a vegetarian, you lead with that, because that's something you come to people with when you're speaking to them, and you don't have to have a script. You don't have to think about it. It's something that's in your heart and it just comes out.
Yes.
The thing that I would say, and this is kind of advice that I've, picked up from, I did a mastermind here with one of my mentors in San Diego in April. And we basically came to the conclusion with the other ladies and myself that the thing that you will sit and talk with your girlfriends about over coffee or cocktails, that's it.
Oh, wow. Nice. Yes.
That's what's in your heart. Maybe it's maybe it's essential oils and how you got your home detoxified, or maybe it's those Norwex cloths and now you just clean with water and magic cloths. Like I use those and I like them. Maybe you are a health coach. Maybe it's amazing lipstick that stays on all day because you just love lipstick.
Yes.
Like whatever it is, just make sure you love it. And that you've at least tried it. Like don't just jump in head first into something that you're not sure about. If it's not a hell yes, it's a no.
That's right. There you go. I love it. I love it. Amie, thank you so much for spending time with us. I so appreciate it. I can't wait to watch your show. And girl, you're on your way. You're doing it. You're gonna rock this thing. And I really appreciate you spending this time with me here on the Bye Bye 9 to 5 show.
Thank you. It's been, the pleasure's been all mine, and thank you for having me. And you guys can keep an eye out too for when Kimberly's going to be on the Moms Making Money show here pretty soon.
Oh yeah, I can't wait.
It's going to be awesome.
Yes. Well, that's it for our session today. It was great having you listen. We will see you next time on the Bye Bye 9 to 5 show. Bye.
This episode of the Bye Bye 9 to 5 podcast has ended, but it doesn't stop there. Be sure to subscribe for more strategies and advice to help you move from employee to escapreneur, to have the kind of success you have always dreamed of without sacrificing family or time. And don't forget to rate and review us so we can continue to bring you the best content possible to motivate and encourage you on this journey. See you on the next episode.